Good morning. So I wanted to take a couple of minutes to share a few thoughts about a concept or a principle that for me is really important. I hope you don't mind the driving scene background. I tend to run out of time, and so I felt like I ought to try to take advantage of some of my windshield time to share a few thoughts. So here's the concept. And I've actually been working on I'm at about 20,000 words so far on a book that I've been writing. I don't know that it's a book yet, but it's a bunch of words written down in a document. We'll call it that. So here's the concept. The concept is to be first. Now let me expand on that a little bit. I want to make sure that you're not misunderstanding and that I'm communicating well. So be first, meaning first we have to exist as what we want to be. So it sounds a little confusing, right? I give you that. Now here's the idea. So I went through some training years ago. Paid for a consulting company to come in and train my dental practices, me and consult my dental practices at the time. And as a result of many of the discussions that we had, I came to realize that we oftentimes want to have things without doing what we need to do to have them. Now, by things, I mean, happiness, joy, peace, prosperity, money, cars, a home, a happy family. These are the things that we can have, in air quotes. So the idea is, first we need to do the things. Well, that's the second thing. Secondly, we need to do the things we need to do so that we can have or possess or own the things that we want to own or have or possess, or whatever you want to say there. But even before doing, we need to be. So the idea is, I'm a dentist, right? Oh, that's bright. So I'm a dentist. And before I can be a good dentist, or before I can do what a good dentist does, I have to, in my mind, and as much as possible, I have to be a good dentist, right? So that requires me to create myself, to create who I am, to create my professional persona. I'm not saying character, create a different character. What I'm saying is I have to take some time and go through a mental exercise, and this isn't just a one-time deal, but take some time and go through the mental creation process of establishing myself as a dentist. So what does that mean in my professional career? That means that there are certain protocols and processes in place. There are certain diagnostic choices that I will make based on appropriate, sound, evidence-based dentistry. Then there are certain ways that I'll interact with my patients such that I can help them understand what the conditions that they have are, what the problems related to those conditions and the lack of treatment thereof, and the solutions that we can afford them. So to kind of roll that up into a smaller package, because I feel like I'm kind of droning on here, it's important that before we can enjoy or reap or harvest the fruits of our labor, we have to be laboring. So, the end result is the fruits of our labor, right? It's the harvest. It's the wheat in the field, or the corn, if you will. Before we can reap that, we have to do something so that it can actually be reaped, meaning plant or something like that. But before we plant that, we also have to exist. That's the three. And that's the be. So we have to exist as what we need to exist as, so that we can do what we need to do, so that we can have what we can have. Let me clarify that one more time. So we need to be who we should be, so that leads us to do what we should do, so that we can have what we earn or deserve. Excuse me. we all too often think we should just have things. Sometimes we do a little bit, but then we feel like I should have X, Y, or Z. I should have a good income, but we never do the work necessary to train ourselves and to improve our skills and abilities. And so we never really have that good income. But even before doing those things, we have to establish in our mind's eye, in our, inside of, the noodle, the brain pan, we have to establish what it is that we are, what it is that we should be. And it's important, as I said, that the book, so-called, that I'm writing, we're at 20,000 words now and trying to explain this concept, at least my perception, my take on this concept. And there's a lot more explaining that needs to happen. But there are a bunch of different sub-concepts within the overarching be, do, have kind of framework. The first thing we should do is to be. Now, part of being requires doing, and part of doing creates the being. You've heard that thoughts lead to words, lead to actions, lead to, your entire life, so to speak. Well, the same concept, in a certain way, is exhibited here. As we do what we should do to be who we should be or who we want to be, then we essentially are creating ourselves. But it requires effort, and it requires creation. The act of creating, the act of establishing, like a good artist or a good composer will sit down with a concept in mind. They may not have the full concept figured out, but the creative process helps to establish that concept more fully. So, that being said, again, there are many facets of our life, but within my life, one of the easiest things that I can use to describe this concept is my career as a dentist. If I want to be a good dentist, if I want to be a good clinician and provide good care, then it requires me to espouse certain ideas and principles so that I can execute on those ideas and principles, so that I can then reap or harvest or have or attain the things that come with that. But I think it's very important at this point, and I'll kind of wrap this video up here. I think it's important at this point that we realize that that the having that we're talking about, the tangible things, whether it's a car, a house, or it's an income or a cash flow or a successful practice, the having of these things is much less important than attaining fulfillment and joy. And I would submit to you that most of the attaining and having and owning, if you will, joy and happiness comes from giving away joy and happiness, or being a source of joy and happiness. So in the process of trying to get joy and happiness, we give it away to other people. So, service always, not always, but is one of the greatest impactors and influencers of our personal peace and joy and happiness. So consider that, some of those intangible things like joy and happiness, peace, prosperity, fulfillment, and real lasting happiness. I'm not talking about superficial funness, going out to a movie with friends, buying something new, playing a video game. Those are all great, well and good, perfect. But that's not the happiness I'm referring to. The happiness that comes from an understanding, a deep and abiding understanding that we know our identity. And that's kind of a buzzword that I want to be cautious in how I use that we know who we are and what our purpose is. So as you may know from my videos before, I come from a very devout Christian background, and I think for me personally, having a deep and abiding understanding of my eternal identity yields for me a great source of peace, understanding spiritual power, if you will, to help me do what I need to do so that I can be who I need to be, and thereby having that thing or those things that I am so eager to have, as many of us are, the first of which is true personal family happiness and fulfillment. So, be, do, have is the concept. First we have to be, and then we have to do, and in the doing we become more, and as a result of being and doing almost simultaneously, we can have or attain over time those things that come as a result of being and doing. I think it's important, though, that we remember that you always pick up two ends of the same stick. One thing always comes with the other. So the actions that we choose to do will reap our destiny, if you will. So we have to be cautious of what that choice set that we are using and implicating, or what's what I'm trying to say, putting into action. Those choices will ultimately lead us down a pathway that will reap a character. So hopefully I haven't been too boring and annoying. I'm hopeful this is helpful. As I said, I've got lots and lots of different concepts I want to kind of explain and go through. Hopefully this venue isn't too annoying. I find driving provides an opportunity to kind of clear my mind and speak a little more free from distractions, I guess. Anytime I'm at home or at work or somewhere else, it tends to be more difficult to really focus because someone's always interrupting. So driving, as long as there's no car accidents or that I don't cause a car accident, provides me with some clarity to be able to communicate a little more effectively. So feel free to tune me out if it's not something that resonates with you. As I go through the series of discussions and concepts, I think you'll appreciate them to some degree. Being leads to doing, which leads to more being, and the two together lead to having or reaping or enjoying is another way to look at it. So enjoy. Thanks. Bye.